Welcome to Son of a Glitch. Join us as we explore some of the internet's craziest glitch stories. Story 1. One night I was returning to work from my lunch break. I normally take the stairs up 2 floors to my office. This night, a couple of my coworkers happened to be walking in at the same time, so I decided to hop on the elevator with them. We got in, hit the button for our floor, and up we went. The door opened, we got out. We started walking in the direction of our office, only to stop abruptly and stare at each other in utter disbelief when we realized we were back in the lobby where we had boarded the elevator at. We definitely went up and did not go back down. We were too stunned to even form words except some mumbles of confusion. We all started taking the stairs after that. Story 2. Saturday I flew home to the US from out of the country. Prior to my flight, I decided to remove the Ativan from that pocket, I am not even sure why, and into the main well of my backpack. My friend feels like this is consequential information. The flight was uneventful. When I got home and started to unload my backpack, I noticed that the right pocket now exhibited the same defect as the left pocket, arrived with male/male parts and now unable to be closed. I have used this backpack for a decade, always using the right pocket for Ativan, always snapping it shut. I have had maybe 3 other glitches in the 40 years I've been alive, which could all plausibly be explained by the faultiness of human memory. But there is no way in hell that I have 10 years of fabricated memory of one of my pockets being usable and the other not. It's particularly sticky in my memory because I was so angry when I got the backpack that I had only unusable pocket. I have examined the right pocket carefully and tried to see if there was any way that it could have a female part on the other end that is sewn into the pocket and somehow got switched around, but that is not the case. There is no visible tampering. There is no indication that the right pocket has ever had anything but male/male snaps. The new male snap looks just as aged as all the other snaps on the backpack. I am trying to find old pictures of the backpack, but I haven't found any yet. I know it's pretty mundane, but it has shaken me up as it indicates that physical reality is less stable than anyone assumes based on existing scientific knowledge, and that thought is unsettling. Edit. As suggested in the comments, I attempted to disassemble a female end that existed in the front pocket of my backpack, and in so it resulted in a male end. So I'm sure it just broke. Case closed for me. I'm blaming travel brain and exhaustion for not thinking of that as the explanation myself. Story 3. I had a completely shocking glitch in the Matrix moment a couple of weeks ago, and I keep turning it over in my mind. I told my son about it, and he kind of looked at me like I'm nuts, so I figured I'd share with like-minded people. On a Wednesday night, I made myself a chicken sandwich. Heated up the breaded chicken in the air fryer, toasted the bun, had some crisp lettuce, and my favorite part, a ton of mayo. Opened the jar of mayo, and we were just about empty. I got what I could out of the jar with a skinny spatula, threw the empty jar out, and grabbed an unopened backup jar from the pantry. Opened the new jar and tried to tear the cardboard protective seal thing off with my teeth, but I've been having issues with my teeth lately, and it started to hurt. I thought to myself, hey stupid, watch your teeth. So I grabbed a steak knife, stabbed under the cardboard lid in the middle, and dragged the knife towards the edge. I lifted the lid with the knife, but that entire thing didn't come off in one piece. I had to grab the other section off with my fingers. Slathered on the rest of my mayo, cleaned up the counter, and enjoyed my sandwich. Nom nom nom. The next night, Thursday night, my son wants some fish sticks. I don't have any tartar sauce on hand, but no prob, I'll just make some. I go into the fridge to grab the almost full jar of mayo that's in there, but I can't find it for the life of me. What the heck? Oh no, don't tell me my dumbass got distracted and put the mayo back in the cabinet instead of the fridge. I check the cabinet, and sure enough, there's the jar of mayo sitting on the shelf. Great, what a waste of money. That jar was brand new. Not to mention I already threw the fish sticks in the air fryer. I figured, I'll take a look at the mayo. Maybe it's not too bad. I open the jar. The jar is sealed shut. I'm looking at a never-opened jar of mayo. What? The actual fuck. I rapidly replay the last night's events back in my head. I emptied one jar of mayo and grabbed the unopened, new jar from the pantry. I vividly remember feeling the discomfort in my tooth when I tried to rip off the lid with my teeth, and switching to grabbing a knife. I remember getting a little mayo on my hand when I ripped off the bit of lid that was still stuck to the jar and licking it off. But I'm staring at an unopened jar. I look in the fridge in case I missed the newly opened jar, and this was just a backup jar that I also missed. Nope. I look in the garbage and see nothing crazy, but I decide to dig around a little bit to see if I can find anything. Then I see the ripped lid of the mayo jar, and holy hell, I suddenly felt faint. I pick up the garbage ripped lid and compare it to the sealed mayo jar lid. They are the same print. Then I look in some more in the garbage and find the empty jar of mayo. None of this makes any sense. I remember running out of mayo when making my sandwich. I remember grabbing a new jar from the pantry, opening it, trying to bite the lid and thinking better of it, ripping the lid off, tasting the mayo. But here I am, looking at an empty jar, a ripped lid, and a sealed jar that I just grabbed. But no opened container of mayo with a little gone from the top, from when I made my sandwich yesterday. WTH? I don't ever leave big remnants of lids on jars either. It's like an OCD thing. I like the entire lid removed from a jar, so it's not like I would have left some lid on there for a long time before I emptied it, and then took that lid part off just now and forgot and did it or something. So the ripped off lid from a new jar is in the garbage, but a sealed jar is all that I have around me? I took a picture to see if what I was seeing, I was actually seeing. I just can't explain this, guys. Something crazy happened, and a couple of months ago, my son was in a bad car accident. He'll be okay, but was in the hospital for 2 weeks, still in recovery and needs another surgery, but ultimately he'll be okay. But there are moments I almost feel the presence of other timelines where he didn't survive, and I'm living a completely different life. This Mayo thing almost seems to fall in line with that. Part of my brain is telling myself to dismiss the whole thing, and part of me knows I witnessed an absolute glitch. Story 4. Wondering if anyone has experienced something similar, and if anyone has any theories about it. 2 days ago I woke up, went into the bathroom, and noticed in the mirror that one of my earrings was missing. It was a diamante stud in the same hole. I have a hoop-style stud in too. I said to my husband, "Oh, I've lost one of my earrings," and when we went into the bedroom I said, "It's probably in the bedding somewhere, both parts. Can you keep an eye out for it, please?" And he confirmed and said, "Yeah, sure." We slept under the duvet that previous night, but that night we slept on top, with the blankets, as it was hot. The following morning I wake up and get ready for the day. I'm going to the dentist. I look in the mirror and think, damn, I didn't find my earring. The dentist will think I'm strange with only one in, but I don't have time to look for it. I carry on my day, I was busy, and went to bed under the blankets again, without thinking about the earring. I've just woken up this morning, gone to the bathroom, and lo, and behold, in the mirror the earring has appeared in my ear. I can't believe it, as I haven't looked for it, not found it. In disbelief I go to my husband. "You remember that, right? I told you twice I lost my earring." And he confirmed yes, he definitely does remember. He says he neither found it nor put it in my ear. Bear in mind that I already have the hoop-style studs in there, meaning when I had put the diamond studs in it was difficult to get the backs on. I had to do this in the mirror with my ears pinned forward. I've never slept-walked before, and I don't think I could do that in my sleep as it was tricky. The missing earring could not have always been there, as there was no place for it to hide, so to speak. Sorry if this is tame for some, but I have no idea how it is in my ear again, when I saw it not in there for 2 days straight. The way it is so fiddly to get in means I would remember to have done it, and I have not looked about in the bed as I have slept on top of it, and I would have remembered finding both parts if I did. Now for a hot take. This is my first time in this sub. Anyone noticed an increases of glitches lately? My event coincides with the Iran-Israel bombings. Imagine if we have course-corrected timelines. Imagine if a nuke got dropped or something else too devastating happened, and we've reverted/jumped. I know the Greys manipulate timelines to perpetuate the most stable timeline for the universe, and I believe there may be a human group who can manipulate timelines too. Story 5. I feel kind of crazy even posting this, but I need to get this off my chest, and making the internet think I'm crazy versus my loved ones thinking I'm crazy sounds less terrible, lol. Basically, skin tags run in my family. If you don't know what they are, it's a colorless mole type thing that hangs off your skin. They can be pretty big, but mine are really tiny, smaller than the tip of a ballpoint pen. I have one under my boob, one between my boobs, and 2 on my neck. I've had them basically my whole life. The ones on my neck have always been on my right side. I have always rubbed my fingertips over them and lightly gripped them between my fingertips and gently pulled them when I'm watching TV or reading a book. You get the picture. It's just one of those absent-minded actions. A couple weeks ago, I woke up and the right side of my neck around my 2 skin tags was sore as my tank top straps had been pushed pretty hard into them all night. I even remember telling my husband about how they were sore and that I needed to remember to make an appointment to get them removed. I've been saying that for years, lol. I even asked him to take a look for me. He just said it was a little red, mentioned the skin tags. Totally normal encounter, acknowledging these things that have been on my neck for nearly my whole life. So anyway, since the area started hurting a couple weeks back, I've been messing with them a lot more lately. A couple days ago, I reached up looking to pinch them, and they weren't there anymore. I was in the middle of something, so I thought I just touched the wrong area and didn't think about it until later that night when I reached up again and found the area completely smooth. Maybe I'd just been messing with them too much and caused them to swell a bit and no longer appear as tags but just bumps. Ick. I am very strict on my skincare, AM and PM, and I bring it all the way down to my chest. Imagine my surprise as I was rubbing skincare into my neck and noticed 2 skin tags in the exact same spots, but on the left side of my neck. If they'd been there before, I would have noticed when I was putting on my skincare multiple times a day, but they had never been there before evening. I was floored. I grabbed my magnifying mirror and looked at both sides. For a second, I even doubted my own reality, thinking that maybe I'd just gotten it mixed up, so I reached up with my left hand to touch them like I would normally with my right hand, and it just didn't feel right. Like, you know when you're so used to doing things one way that doing them a different way just doesn't feel right? It basically felt like I was trying to brush my teeth with the wrong hand or something similar. And I have to really adjust my body to get my right hand in the correct spot to touch them the way I did when they were in the right side, so it couldn't have been that. I'm sure people have a lot crazier stories than this one, and I'm sure people are going to read this and think I'm stupid or have lost my mind. Honestly, maybe I have, I don't know. I'm in my 30s, married to an engineer, 3 kids, a scientist by trade, so I'm huge skeptic. I own my home, like I'm normal as hell, but this shook me to my core. I don't drink or do any sort of drugs. I take medication for seizures, Keppra, and a heart condition, metoprolol, neither of which are controlled substances or could cause confusion like this. I also checked all of my skincare products. Not a single one of them can be used to remove skin tags. They can only be removed via banding, freezing, and snipping, so it definitely wasn't my skincare diminishing them. I honestly feel pretty crazy right about now. The only thing I can think of that would cause me to mix up something like this would be if I had a pretty large seizure. Anytime I've had one in the past, I'd have pretty significant memory gaps. I'm epileptic, but I haven't had a big seizure in at least 5 years now, and there are no signs that I've had one. I would have bit my tongue, fallen and injured myself, dislocated a shoulder, peed my pants and projectile vomited, and also would have been in an immense amount of pain for multiple days had I had one. There's just no way. Anyway, thank you for listening. It feels a lot better to scream this into the void. Story 6. My partner, Derek, and I moved into our home about 8 years ago. We loved the idea of settling down somewhere long-term, and one of the things we agreed on early was planting fruit trees around the property. We envisioned someday walking through our yard, picking fresh fruit with our kids, maybe even making pies or preserves. Derek spent weeks researching which trees would thrive in our climate. Eventually, we planted a variety of trees. A couple of cherry trees along the back fence, some plum trees on the side, and right in the middle of our front yard, a golden delicious apple tree. He chose that one specifically because it was a strong cross-pollinator. Strategic placement, he said. It was the only apple tree, and for years it gave us beautiful apples. That's why what happened this year completely threw us. It started one evening not long ago. I was pulling into the driveway, just returning from picking up groceries. The sun was setting, and the light hit the tree in the front yard just right. That's when I noticed it. There were peaches. Not apples, peaches. Dozens of them, hanging from the branches like they'd always belonged there. I sat in the car for a moment, just staring. I thought maybe I was overtired or seeing things. When Derek came outside to help me unload, I pointed at the tree and asked, "Didn't we plant an apple tree there?" He looked at it, squinted, and said, "Wait, those aren't apples." We walked over to the tree together. It was full grown, at least 15 feet tall, and clearly had been there for a while. The fruit was unmistakably peach. We picked one and cut it open just to be sure. The smell, the texture, the taste, definitely peach. We both stood there for a long time, not saying anything. It felt like our memories were colliding with some alternate version of reality. Derek was adamant. I planted a golden delicious. I remember ordering it. I remember digging the hole. I remember it producing apples. I needed to know what was going on. That night, I dug through every photo I could find. I looked through my camera roll, social media posts, and even screenshots from our Ring doorbell camera. Eventually, I found a video from September 2019. The angle showed the front yard clearly. I zoomed in, stared, and then whispered out loud, "Where is the tree?" There was no tree. Not even a sapling. It was just grass, empty space. I ran to show Derek. He was just as shaken. "That tree's been there for years," he said. "I don't get it. That doesn't make sense." We kept looking. I found another photo from May 2020, and there it was, a small sapling in the exact spot. But again, it didn't match our memory. We both remembered the apple tree being older, more mature. We had picked apples from it before, hadn't we? Things got weirder when we found a receipt in a box of old garden supplies. It was dated February 2020 and listed a nectarine tree. Derek had bought it. He didn't remember doing it, though. He looked genuinely puzzled. "I mean, maybe I planted it there? But shouldn't we remember replacing the apple tree?" He paused, then added, "I do remember something about ants. I think the apple tree started dying, and there were ants crawling through the bark. I must have pulled it out. Maybe I just didn't think much of it. That explanation should have brought me peace, but it didn't. How could we both forget removing a tree? We'd cared for it for years. And how did a peach tree get so big so fast? The timing didn't add up. Even if he planted that nectarine tree in early 2020, it shouldn't be towering at 15 feet already." We tried Google Earth next. The only Street View image available was from 9 years ago, before we moved in. No help there. Eventually, I did find a blurry photo from 2015 that showed a small tree in that spot. It's impossible to tell what kind it is, but it was something. So maybe our memories aren't perfect. Maybe it was always a peach tree. Or maybe we replaced it and forgot. But still, the photos. The missing tree in 2019. The rapid growth. The peach fruit instead of apples. It doesn't sit right. I know what you're thinking. It's probably just a mix-up. But when it's your own life, your own backyard, and your own memories that don't line up, it feels a lot scarier. I still call it Peachgate. And sometimes, when I walk past that tree, I can't help but wonder if I've stepped into some alternate version of my life. One where things are almost the same, but not quite. Story 7. Back in 2013, I was really into cosplay. Still am, but back then I was in my peak phase of building characters from scratch. Costumes, props, voices, the whole deal. That year, I had this idea to cosplay as the 10th Doctor from Doctor Who, and I was hunting for the perfect coat. You know, the one long, kind of trench-style brown wool. I didn't want to buy a brand new replica online. I wanted it to feel real, worn. So I hit up a few thrift stores around the area. There's one Goodwill I used to visit often in Tacoma. It's a bit out of the way, but they always had decent stuff. That's where I found it. This long, brown coat with just the right amount of wear and tear, like someone had lived a whole life in it before letting it go. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the one. I bought it, took it home, and started going through the pockets before tossing it in the wash. That's when I found it. It was folded neatly, tucked into the inner breast pocket. A funeral program. At first, I didn't think much of it. People leave things in clothing all the time. But then I looked closer. The name on the front of the program was mine. First name, last name. Exactly the same. Spelled the same, no middle initial. At first, I thought maybe it was a prank, like maybe someone was messing with me. But then I saw the date. The memorial service had been held in 1999. I was 6 years old in 1999. I sat down on the edge of my bed, just staring at it. The man in the program died in the very same town I had just moved to that year. I had only lived there for a couple of months when I found this. Before that, I'd lived up north in Washington near Seattle. So had he, according to the back of the program. The more I stared, the colder I felt. The obituary mentioned that he had recently relocated to Tacoma from the Seattle area. Same as me. Same name. Same migration path. Same town. I don't know how to explain the feeling. It wasn't fear, exactly. It was more like the slow realization that something was wrong with the math of reality. I remember showing it to my roommate at the time. He kind of laughed it off and said, "Well, maybe you're a clone." I laughed too, but I couldn't shake the chill that ran through me. I posted a picture of the program on Facebook. I wish I still had the original, but I moved a few times since then, and somewhere along the line it got lost. I tore my apartment apart looking for it once, just to prove to myself it wasn't a dream. I still have the photo, though a blurry image I snapped with my old phone. It's grainy, but the name is clear. What gets me the most is how the coat ended up in that store, in that town, just waiting for me. I didn't need to go to that particular Goodwill. I could have gone anywhere. But I found it there. I found him there. Maybe it's all coincidence. Maybe there are dozens of people with my name who've lived in Washington. But the timeline, the location, the way it all lined up, if it's a coincidence, it's the most bizarre one I've ever experienced. Story 8. It started with a text. Just a simple message from my daughter while I was standing in line at the grocery store. "Mom, what are you doing?" I replied without thinking. "Grabbing a few things." "Why?" Her next message made my stomach twist. "Why are you sitting in the car in the driveway?" I froze right there in the checkout line. I had driven to the store alone, and I was still there, basket in hand. I reread the text, then immediately dialed her number. She picked up almost instantly. "Sweetheart, I'm not in the driveway," I said. "I'm still at the store." There was a long pause. "But I just waved at you." You waved back from the car. I felt a strange drop in my chest, like an elevator floor had disappeared. "Lock the doors," I told her. "Right now. Don't open them for anyone. I'm coming home." I left my cart behind and rushed out of the store, heart pounding. The drive back felt longer than usual, every red light dragging me closer to panic. I kept wondering, was someone pretending to be me? Was there a break-in? A stalker? Worse? When I got home, everything looked normal. No car in the driveway, just mine as I pulled in. The house was quiet. My daughter was inside, unharmed but clearly shaken. She told me again what happened. "I was looking out the window because I heard the garage open," she said. "You pulled in and I waved. You were in the driver's seat. You looked right at me and smiled. Then you waved back. But I wasn't even near the house," I said. "That wasn't me." She looked pale. "Where did you go then?" "The car just disappeared." We checked the security footage from the camera pointing toward the driveway. Nothing. No motion was detected. Not a single frame showed a car pulling in or out during the time she said it happened. It was as if the event never occurred. But she was so sure. Later that evening, my son, he's younger than my daughter, called down from upstairs. "Mom, I'll be right there," he yelled. I was in the kitchen, nowhere near him. I didn't respond the first time, thinking maybe he was talking to his sister. Then I heard him again, louder. I said, "I'll be right there." Confused, I walked to the bottom of the stairs. "Who are you talking to?" He leaned over the railing, clearly annoyed. You kept calling me. You said my name like 4 times. "I didn't call you at all," I told him. "I've been in the kitchen this whole time." He stared at me, visibly unsettled. "I swear I heard your voice. It was you." That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the car, the wave, the fake me sitting in the driver's seat. And now, both of my kids hearing or seeing things that didn't happen, or at least didn't happen with me. I started wondering, what if it was me? Some other version of me? A copy? A glitch? I know how that sounds. I wouldn't believe it myself if it hadn't happened to my family. But I saw the fear in my daughter's face. I saw the confusion in my son's eyes. Whatever they experienced, it wasn't nothing. Story 9. It was a regular Friday evening. My 9-year-old son, Eli, and I were curled up on my bed watching a show. Some cartoon we've seen a dozen times, but he loves the comfort of routine. He was giggling, sprawled out next to me, and I was half watching, half scrolling through my phone. Just a quiet, cozy night. At some point, Eli sat up and said, "I gotta pee." He padded off to the bathroom, which is just next to my bedroom. I could hear the door creak shut. I stayed where I was, figuring he'd be back in a minute. A few moments later, I heard him call from the bathroom. "Mom." It was soft, almost hesitant. I paused, listening. He didn't sound scared, so I figured he'd ask again if he really needed something. Another minute passed. Then I heard it again, slightly louder. "Mom." I yelled back, "What is it?" but got no response. Then the weirdest thing happened. I heard faint breathing. Strained quick. Like someone was trying to hold back a sob or was mid-panic attack. I sat up quickly. That wasn't just a normal call for attention. Something was wrong. I called his name and got no answer. I got up and rushed to the bathroom, empty. The door was wide open. The light was still on, and the faucet was dripping, but Eli wasn't in there. I turned toward the hallway, calling for him again. Then, from the opposite end of the house, I heard the unmistakable sound of the back door creaking. I ran. Eli was standing on the back porch, barefoot, clutching his iPad, cheeks streaked with tears. The look on his face broke me. "What are you doing out here?" I asked. He looked shocked to see me. "I couldn't find you," he said. "You were gone." "I wasn't gone, baby. I was in the bedroom the whole time." "No, you weren't," he insisted. "I went back in there." The TV was still on, but the bed was empty. You were gone. I thought you left me home alone. He was trembling now. I even tried to FaceTime you on my iPad, but it wouldn't go through. I checked to see if your car was still here, and it was, so I knew you had to be somewhere, but the house was empty. I pulled him into a hug, trying not to let my own panic show. I wanted to reassure him, to explain it away somehow, but the truth was, I hadn't left that room. I hadn't even stood up from the bed until I heard him panicking. And yet, my child, who is not the type to make things up, was completely convinced I had vanished. We double-checked the call history on his iPad. He had tried to call me 3 times. All failed. We checked the Wi-Fi. It was fine. There was no reason the calls shouldn't have gone through. For the rest of the night, he wouldn't let me out of his sight. We slept in the living room with all the lights on. I keep replaying it, him calling me hearing him, the panicked breathing, the empty bathroom, the porch. And that question keeps circling in my head. Where was I? Because if I never left the room, why couldn't he find me? And the scariest thought, what if I really did disappear, for just a second? Long enough to shake the edges of our reality. Long enough for him to feel truly alone in a house that was supposed to be filled with safety. I still don't know what to think. But ever since that night, something feels thinner. Like the walls between what is and what could be have stretched just a little too far.